For the last couple of months, my gaming life has been completely dominated by Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And recently, I finally got to a point where I felt good to put that game down for a bit, but then just in time, Part 2 of the Final Fantasy XVI DLC, The Rising Tide, decided it was a good time to take over my PlayStation. I just finished the DLC a couple days ago and want to give my thoughts on it, so here we go. Similar to the first DLC, Echoes of the Fallen, The Rising Tide is a side story that you can access near the end of the game, and also like Echoes of the Fallen, the actual notice pointing you to the DLC does feel a little shoehorned in. It's just a mysterious note found in Clive's chambers that starts the questline. This DLC takes place in a new region called Mysidia, and it's located across the water from Northreach, and you may have noticed the main set piece of this area from the distance on your first playthrough of the game, this giant blue wave off in the distance. Once you do some setup conversations with a few NPCs, things get rolling and you take a boat over to Mysidia. I thought the storyline was pretty enjoyable and felt like a real addition to the world and lore, while Echoes of the Fallen felt largely unimportant in comparison. I won't get into specifics, but this arc really feels like it should have been included in the base game, and the game kind of knows this, but it doesn't affect the ending in any way that I'm aware of, so the game just kind of writes in a few lines to explain away the inconsistencies of the whole new icon, Leviathan, being around, and that not being important to the larger plot. I think maybe there was 1 to 2 lines mentioning Leviathan in the base game, and it really should have been more important than that. Part of me rolled my eyes because I knew why these convenient reasons existed, and it all felt strange knowing how the game was going to end, but another part of me was actually slightly surprised the convenient reasons were sort of believable if, say, I was ignorant to the fact this was a DLC side story, and I was just playing this naturally on my first playthrough and didn't know the ending. I think they handled it about as good as they could have without changing the end of the game with new content. In addition to several really cool set pieces, this new area's very lush environment with plenty of nice looking water around was great theming. Felt very tropical and unique to other places in the game, to me, which kind of makes sense this being Leviathan themed. And this really made Mysidia a pleasant area to run around in, and the music really helps tie it all together and is fantastic as you'd expect. The main town music is a more relaxed version of a song from one of the original trailers prior to release that never made it into the full game, and that got me pretty excited when I heard it for the first time. So for the most part, the gameplay for the DLC is about what you'd expect from Final Fantasy XVI. The side quests are the same amount of meh as they were in the base game. Lots of go talk to that person just because and kill that monster and voila, that's the side quest. One of the most egregious examples of this was me having to talk to several NPCs in several different areas and not actually doing any real gameplay just to unlock my chocobo to join me in the DLC area. That being said, much like the base game, there are a couple side quests here and there that are fun and worth the time. I really think if the game had maybe half the side quests, but really leaned into fleshing them out more, it would have gone a long way. Boring fetch questy side quests have been slightly improved though due to a new quality of life feature allowing you to hold the options button once checking all the boxes off for a side quest to fast travel back to the quest giver, saving you time and the effort to go find that fast travel marker on your own and run across the town. As for what's new with the gameplay here, you do get the Leviathan icon skills, and these new icon skills are introduced through a forced tutorial, allowing you to play with them a bit once you unlock them. Your circle button move basically gives Clive a giant water gun for an arm, and has an active reload system, allowing you to try and time a button press during your reload to gain unlimited ammo for an amount of time. The Leviathan abilities were fun, and I tried to use them here and there when they were new, but my gameplay strategy was so hardwired to my brain to use 3 icons I was most used to, Phoenix, Garuda, and Odin, so I ended up just defaulting back to those. I did throw the ultimate attack for the Leviathan set on my Garuda set, because I wanted to use some of the new stuff, and the new Tidal Wave, I think it was called, attack, was a really fun, strong new attack that kind of just hit everything on screen, and I was really happy to have that in the rotation. When it comes to the enemies you'll find in this expansion, unfortunately, a lot of them are going to feel pretty similar, as a lot of them are just reskins of stuff you fought before. The main highlight of new monsters were the Tomberries, which I was very happy to see added because they're so iconic to the series, but really the base Tomberries in this DLC were such a non-threat I was a little let down. And also they have some interesting clothing choices for what they're packing. Tomberries and their knives are normally so scary, but these weird little fellas went down so fast and so easily, I'm not even sure if they ever got a stab on me. The more mini-boss adjacent Tomberries were a fun challenge though, and did have some more threatening attacks you had to pay attention to. One of the high points for me though was the DLC bosses, particularly the ones you fought towards the end of the DLC. My favorite boss was when you fight as regular old human-shaped Clive. I think it's a really incredible fight that ties in all the things that make 16's combat so fun. It mixes in regular attacks that require standard dodges, along with some of the more bullet hell hectic attacks that require to use run, jump, and dodge together to avoid rather getting torn up. I played on Final Fantasy mode since this was my New Game Plus save, and I don't think it was overly challenging. If you've played the first part of the DLC, it was no harder than the last boss in that, but I thought it was a cooler fight in this one. And the DLC still has a rather generous boss checkpoint system if you're having a tough time. And if you missed Ifrit in Echoes of the Fallen, you will get an extended sequence to play some Kaiju Tekken, and this fight was also really great. Really cool set pieces, great music, pretty challenging, thumbs up from me here. Once you get through the main story beat of the DLC, you will get a couple more side quests, including another couple fun hunts, which is always one of the higher points of FF16 to me, and you also unlock a new leaderboard level-based mode called Kairos Gate. Basically, in this mode, you do combat challenges, earn points, and buy different upgrades and such to get through the next, more difficult levels. Sort of like a roguelite mode with a leaderboard, I guess. I will be honest though, I did not play this mode more than once. It wasn't really what I was looking for at this point in the DLC to spend my time in. But there is a cool surprise when you access this mode for the first time, and I won't ruin that surprise because I think it is pretty neat, and it was spoiled for me, and I think it makes for a fun reward I would have been pretty excited to discover on my own. As far as the value of this DLC, I would say it's a little shorter than I was hoping or expecting it to be. I mean, look, I loved FF16, so spending another $25 for a couple new areas is well worth my time because I just want to play more FF16. But when I look at the numbers, this half of the DLC took me maybe 5 to 6 hours to get through and do all the side quests, and the first part of the DLC was maybe 2 or 3 hours. So just under 10 hours of content for $25, it's going to come down if you want to play more Final Fantasy XVI. But that's probably the best way to describe this expansion pack. It's simply just more FF16. Thanks for watching. While this DLC was not all that I'd hoped it would be, I still had a really good time with it in my quick run through it. After beating this game 2 times and playing through all the DLC, I think it's officially time to put this game down for a while. 16 was my number 2 game of the year last year, right behind Zelda, and I hope down the line Square decides to try and put another game in Valisthea, because I think there's more juice to squeeze out of it, even if we don't go with a focus on Clive. The action combat worked for me, and if in the next go-round they can make the RPG side of the game a little more fleshed out, I think it could be really something special. Happy to talk about 16, and happy if you listened to this far. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.